waste factor when it comes to James Hardie, because the last thing you need is to run short on material.
Have a good takeoff process, then you have the knowledge, which will give you the confidence.
I couldn't agree more. I mean, just like I said, being knowledgeable of the product, understanding the product.
Hi, my name's Cory Getz with JHC In A Box, where we help contractors grow their Hardie business. And today we're meeting with Will Zuspen. He's the branch manager at Lansing Building Supply in the Columbus, Ohio area. It's located in New Albany, Ohio. And today we're going to be talking about James Hardie siding takeoffs. And on March 14th from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m., I'll be at the branch to go deeper into how having the right processes around takeoffs for James Hardie siding projects will ensure that you can win more jobs and maintain a healthy profit margin all at the same time. Will, thanks for meeting with me. Welcome, and I appreciate you joining us.
Thanks for having me, Cory. I'm excited, to get to talk about this. But yeah, thanks for having me on.
Yeah, absolutely. So how did you end up at Lansing as the manager there?
So like you mentioned, I've been with Lansing 5 years. I was originally working for, it was Seal Right Door, Therma-Tru door manufacturer, but got in touch with a branch manager that was with Lansing at the time. And I grew up in the building materials industry. I originally from West Virginia. My grandfather, dad owned their own lumber yard. So kind of grew up in that industry. I wanted to kind of get back to the building materials side. And, the first conversation I had with, our operations manager, Dale, it was the right fit. It just, the way Lansing, just the company as a whole, the mission statement, why we exist, to make a positive impact in people's lives, it just resonated with me. But I started off as inside sales, got hired on with Lansing, went to outside sales for a couple years, and then, over the past year, starting in 2024, took over as branch manager at Lansing.
That's great. That's awesome. So you're from the wild and wonderful state of West Virginia.
I am, yes.
That's awesome. I'm a big fan of snowshoe. I don't know if you've ever been there skiing.
Yes, I had. Yeah, when I was younger, I went there a couple times. I know part of my family still goes down there. But yeah, I have been there quite a few. I went to college in West Virginia as well, played baseball down there. So it's the home state. My family still lives down there. So I get down there quite a bit, or at least when I can.
Yeah, it's a great place. Well, we'll jump into it here. So, in the supplier world, it's really common for contractors to come to suppliers to ask for help with takeoffs from James Hardie siding. Why do you think that is?
I would say the biggest reason is they just don't understand the product. Maybe they're just now getting into James Hardie, or if it's something that they've came across when, selling other products, homeowners are asking for it. So, okay, I don't want to pass these jobs along. Like, I don't want to miss, making money off these jobs. So let me get into the James Hardie world. But they don't understand, I would say, the process of doing a takeoff with James Hardie. It's a lot different than, let's say, vinyl siding. The trim sizes, the window trim, the corners, the availability with the statement collection to the dream collection. There's only 4 or 5 colors in the trim when it comes to statement. Just understanding all the aspects of James Hardie and the product itself. I think that's why they tend to, go to the distributor, come to us to help them with their takeoffs or whatever it may be. But it makes it tough for them as well. They don't understand that whole, because when you're selling James Hardie, it is a process. They don't understand that process and kind of what it takes to, be successful when it comes to, selling that product.
Yeah. And, one of the ways I like to say it is, James Hardie is not that hard to sell, but it's not that easy either. And it's some of those nuances that you're talking about that we cover in the system that really will helps a lot of contractors. And you see the results of bad takeoffs, usually in the form of contractors probably having to come back to Lansing to get more materials. So what are the common mistakes that contractors make when they're doing a takeoff for James Hardie?
I would say the waste factor when it comes to James Hardie. Not every house is the same, and that's something that I've learned along the way as well. Some houses may need more of a waste factor. You have more gables, more cuts. I mean, once you cut the board in a gable, it's done with. You can't use it again. The waste factor when it comes to trim, it's a little different than the siding. Like just understanding the waste factor and taking that into account. Maybe they're not adding enough waste factor when it comes to James Hardie, because the last thing you need is to run short on material on a job. Then you're contacting us or the distributor and getting that material either on site as soon as we can or having the availability to go pick it up. And that just, prolongs the job. The installer has to go out to the job, 1 to 2 more days than they expected. It causes that headache in those first couple of jobs if you do, make a mistake or run short or don't account for a certain size trim, whatever it may be. But it's that, headaches when it comes to the first couple jobs, doing James Hardie.
Yeah, and I think you're right on, because it's like when we see the trim, especially, Hover recently came out with like a takeoff that you can use in the Hover. And I've met with Hover and talked to him about it. And one of the challenges is a contractor has to set their own waste factor for that trim. And I think trim is usually about half the cost of the whole project, depending on if it's a full replacement or not. But in a full replacement, it's like half the cost. And so you can't just say, I have this many linear feet of trim, because people don't want a bunch of seams halfway through the corner and things like that. So I think you kind of just touched on it, but when a takeoff is incorrect or short, I mean, it's costing the contractor money, right?
Yes. Yeah, it's costing him time and money. I mean, time is money. So, I mean, you have a installer that you scheduled for a certain amount of days, and they're expecting to be on that job because they have other jobs as well that they have planned ahead, and maybe that installer can't get on the job until next week or whatever it may be. It's prolonging the job. And at the end of the day, that's holding up payment to you, the contractor. It costs them time, it costs them money. You got to add more material to, you weren't expecting to add more material to the job. So overall, it causes a big headache for the contractor. That's why, we have a great relationship and partnership with Hardie. We want to make sure the contractor is utilizing the resources, or let them know the resources available to them to eliminate those headaches. Because the last thing you want as a contractor is, okay, this job's going to be done today. And we're going to wrap this thing up. Oh, I'm 2 squares short. I got to get 2 more square to finish the job. And then it, prolongs for another 2 weeks. And it's something that can be eliminated. You just got to understand, the waste factor, the process of James Hardie to not run into those issues. And I'm not going to say you're never going to run into those issues, because, in this industry, headaches, happen all the time, but just giving you the resources to help potentially eliminate those issues.
Yeah. And I think you're 100% right, because it's like the time is the most valuable part for the contractor. Yeah, it always is unfortunate when we got to buy more materials we didn't factor in. And if the contractor has it set up in there, a lot of contractors that do a lot of Hardie will set it up where it's like, if there's additional materials, then they'll charge that back to the customer, which usually the customer doesn't enjoy it. But what's really costing us the most money is our time. Like if we can't finish that job and move on to the next job, then we have all the overhead, our rent, our insurance, our employees, depending on how many staff you have, I think that's what is the most costly in it. And at the end of the day, you lose confidence in it, and then you don't want to sell more Hardie. And if you're not selling more Hardie when the people are asking for it, you're not making any money there either.
And I agree with you 100% on the confidence part of, if those first two jobs go completely left, they go haywire, you're short on material, you're adding 1 to 2 more weeks to the job, it eliminates that confidence that you have to be able to go sell the next job. If that first job runs smoothly and you wrap the job up when you expect it to, you have the confidence now to go sell the next job and be able to speak to it to the homeowner and explain the whole process of the project to them. This is how the takeoff works. We'll order the material. This is when it's going to come in. This is kind of what the production side looks like. And it helps you build that confidence to be able to, sell more James Hardie and be successful in it.
Yeah. And that leads into my next question is, do you see the takeoff process as part of the sales process?
I would say so. Just to be able to speak to it knowledgeably to the homeowner. And you could use past jobs, for instance, of, how your process works. It's part of the whole sales process, in my opinion. Speak to the homeowner of how that process works. That way they're comfortable in the process. Because the last thing you need is a homeowner that's not comfortable, because it's a big investment for them. I mean, yes, vinyl siding is a big investment as well, but James Hardie, in my opinion, is a bigger investment. They're spending a lot of money to transform their home, and they're trusting you to make that happen. And for you to be able to speak to the takeoff process of how it works and explain, okay, we're going to do 4-inch trim around the windows on the corners, do some shake in the gable. This is kind of how I take into account of, the waste factor, so we have enough material to complete the job. Just be able to speak to that, helps the contractor be able to, sell more jobs and, help them be confident in it.
Yeah. And I also think it's when the takeoff process doesn't go well and you still sell them the job and then it doesn't go well, then it's hurting the next sale, right? Because it's not going to give that homeowner the confidence to refer you or give you a 5-star review.
Well, and people talk as well. I mean, especially if you're in a neighborhood where a lot of homes could use new siding, new James Hardie siding, referrals, whatever it may be. I mean, you may lose out on another 2 to 3 jobs in that particular neighborhood just because that one job went a little south.
Yeah. And I think Hardie has a statistic they told me years ago where it's, when a Hardie job gets done, 2 more will get done within a mile of that home or business or whatever it is within the next year. And so, it's how do you position yourself as the contractor who's doing a really good job so you're more desired.
Yeah. And especially with their marketing campaigns that Hardie does as well. And we can do marketing campaigns within Lansing, but those neighbors are, getting those flyers and they go talk to the neighbor. You just got your Hardie done. How was that process for you? They were great. They walked me through the whole process, the takeoff from start to completion. It was great. And that ultimately sells another job for you without even, doing much. But if it goes south and you have issues to where the job's prolonged, it goes another week or 2 and the neighbors talk and, well, it was good, but it wasn't great. And that kind of, makes it tougher for you to sell another job.
Yeah. And it all starts with that takeoff process. Like you were saying, like if we don't get it right and we don't start impressing them from the time that we get to their home and explain it well to them through that sales process, then they probably may not even have the confidence to buy from us in the first place. It's just so important. And I think even on the back end, it's like, if it does go really well and you do a great job, then, one thing we do in our company, in my construction company, is we have a reference list. And so then we can ask the homeowner at the end of the project, did we do everything we said we were going to do? Did we clean up? Did we do what we promised? And And if they say yes, then we can ask them to be on our reference list. And then that's really powerful, because I think it's kind of like what you're talking about is people talk in the area, but referrals close at a higher rate. So if we can get them to call somebody on our reference list and turn them into a referral, then we can sell more jobs that way as well. Do you think that a good takeoff gives the sales team more confidence in being able to sell more Hardie?
Yeah. I mean, just because they know what it takes to have a project run smoothly. If they're, questioning certain, things about a job, they're not able to speak to it confidently. Like that's a, that's a bad recipe, or that's a recipe for a disaster. But being able to understand how to do a proper takeoff, how to account for waste, like we mentioned, that just gives, the sales team, confidence to be able to sell, projects. They understand the product. They understand what it takes to make a job go smoothly, what to account for. Some areas on the house, you may need to, do something. They can talk to the installer about, getting opinions on what they might do in this certain area. Just, it gives them confidence. They know their resources, and they're able to speak to it, to the homeowner.
Yeah, when we started putting this program together for contractors, I asked our local Hardie rep, I said, what is it that contractors need? What are they looking for when you're meeting with them and they want to get into Hardie, or they want to do more Hardie? He says it's pretty simple. They need the knowledge of the product. They need the confidence, which comes from the knowledge. And then they need like an easy button to make it easy, so that way it goes smoothly and they're not wasting their time. And I think that's exactly what you're touching on. It's like, if you have a good takeoff process, then you have the knowledge, which will give you the confidence, and it's just going to make it easier for you to go out there and do your job.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. I mean, just like I said, being knowledgeable of the product, understanding the product, understanding the resources that's available to you to do a good takeoff, it ultimately, leads to a successful job and leads to, more jobs down the road.
Yeah. And I do think the takeoff process is a huge part of the sales process as well. And especially if you want to maintain healthy margins. You've probably got some contractors in your market that come and do business with you that do a fair amount of Hardie. Do you think that those contractors have a sales process for their Hardie projects?
I would say they do. I mean, especially, your elite preferred, or preferred contractors that have done it for a while. They are now doing the takeoffs on their own, and they're able to sell more jobs. They're selling 15 to 20, jobs a year. They do that because they do have a sales process. They understand the product. They're knowledgeable. They can speak to it, and ultimately that wins jobs over other contractors because it makes the homeowner feel comfortable. This guy really knows what he's talking about. He has past experience in, James Hardie. He's completed all these jobs. Like they've built a sales process into the product to be able to sell it in home. And I think that's why they're so successful.
And do you think that's the biggest challenge that a contractor that's trying to either get into Hardie or grow, it's maybe doing a few jobs a year? Do you think that's their biggest challenge, is coming up with the systems and processes around takeoff, sales, and production?
I would say so, yeah. Because once you get that process in play, it's like riding a bike to you. You can go on and sell the next job and the next job and the next job. But if you don't have that sales process in place, you're kind of just, hoping you get this job pretty much. You don't understand some of the questions, because nowadays with technology and the marketing that James Hardie's doing, which they do a fabulous job with their marketing. I think I see them on a lot of commercials nowadays. I think I seen them during a Super Bowl commercial a few weeks back. But the homeowner is knowledgeable now. they do their research. They know a lot about the product already, and it's ultimately up to the contractor to hit those points to where they may not know the takeoff process, the production side of things, the cleanup, whatever it may be. That's on the contractor. The homeowner may already know about the product itself. Now it's up to the contractor to have that sales process of, okay, this is what it looks, this is what it's going to look like to complete your job. And I think that's why guys are successful in, James Hardie.
Yeah, and that's what's great about James Hardie. That Hardie's spending tens of millions of dollars a year right now for more to bring in more leads for contractors in the Alliance program. And I was at the Hardie Summit a few weeks ago in Phoenix, where they bring all the biggest Hardie contractors together, and they showed us a couple of their new ads coming out. And it's really cool. I think it's great to have a manufacturer that's doing that. And I think you're 100% right. It's like they bring them in, but it's really up to the contractor to sell themselves, because, if Hardie brings them in, they're likely going to give that lead to a couple contractors in the Alliance program. And what's great about Hardie is if you're getting into Hardie, they actually want to help grow the new guy. And so the challenge for the new guy is, how do they sell themselves that they're the right choice for that homeowner? And systems and processes, I think, are the big key there at the end of the day. Now, if a takeoff is wrong or incorrect, when does the contractor usually figure that out? When the job starts?
I would say it's either when the job starts or at the end of the job. And we've already spoke about, the end of the job, running 2 squares short, 3 squares short, whatever it may be. But I've seen times to where, material gets on the job site and a certain size trim wasn't taken into account. Now we're missing 8-inch trim, or they meet the installer there the day prior just to make sure they go over everything, make sure all the material's there, and, I need more 4-inch trim, whatever it may be. I've seen it both ways. But you don't want that to happen, but you would almost rather that happen before the job starts, because you do have trim there already. You can get started on the job and we can get the rest of the material out there. Last thing you want is to run, short on material or have, the incorrect size or whatever it may be on the job site. But you almost would rather that happen prior to the job starting to later. But I've seen it both ways. It depends if that, contractor is meeting the installer out there prior to the job starting. Because I've seen, some guys do it, some guys don't. But meeting the installer out there on the job site, that kind of helps you paint a picture of, okay, this is job starting tomorrow. This is what we're going to do first, whatever it may be. But I've seen it both ways, to answer your question.
Yeah. And so these contractors in your market, maybe the elite preferreds or the preferreds that are doing more of the Hardie, do you think that they have systems and processes in place already that are helping prevent those types of headaches down the road?
I do. Yeah. I mean, they understand how to do a takeoff. Let's say from a hover report. They understand, what to take into account. They have a great relationship with, us, their distributor. They have a great relationship with their installer. They're set, because that's another topic as well, to making sure you're, set up with a good Hardie installer. But they have a good relationship with him, and it's a seamless, process for the homeowner. I mean, they got everything in place to make sure the job goes smoothly. And that's not to say every job's going to go smoothly, because even if, you're one of the elite preferred, there are going to be times when there's some hiccups or headaches, whatever it may be. But they have the systems, they have the processes in place to make that job go smoothly, to make every job, go smoothly.
Yeah. And you touched on one thing that's a little off topic, but I think is really important in this is, a lot of times when I'm talking to contractors that are wanting to use our program, one of the main things they tell me is, Cory, I just need good Hardie crews. If I get good Hardie crews, that'll solve everything. And I think that having good Hardie crews I think to get a good Hardie crew is part of it is selling them. And you're not selling them in like a sales pitch. You're selling them because when they show up to that job, you have it all accounted for. That when you did your takeoff, you factored it right. And it's like you said earlier, it's like the installers don't like it when they have to leave and then come back later. And they may not be available to come back to take 2 days off and then come back. They need to be making money the whole time. And if we don't do the takeoff right up front, it's hard, even if you get a good Hardie crew, to keep that crew, because they're going to be frustrated with you because you don't do a good takeoff or the takeoff's wrong. And like you said, things happen. Don't get me wrong. I mean, I've been doing this almost 10 years with the Hardie in my business, and things do happen from time to time, but the crew understands when it's like a one-off thing versus I remember when I first got started and I didn't know what I was doing, and it wasn't Lansing, but I had another supply house do a takeoff for me, and it showed up and like nothing was right. And the crew's looking at me like, are you kidding me? And it was a really good Hardie crew, but I couldn't keep them because I wasn't set up right for them at first.
Yeah, having that good Hardie crew just it gives you, like we said, confidence. You can sell that in the home. Like you can sell your Hardie crew in the home, who you use, the job they do. Like they take really good care, of the product. They clean up afterwards. They make sure, you'll get some dust and debris, moving back and forth, between the neighbor or whatever. But they're really good about cleaning up. They knock out a job, in 3 to 4 days, whatever it may be. The quality, of their install, you're able to speak to that. And I know that's a little off topic, but having a good Hardie crew just gives you the confidence, gives the homeowner confidence that the job, will be successful.
Absolutely. One thing we do when we start jobs in my company is the first thing we do is we pull out the takeoff. And we walk through the whole job with the crew and we say, this size goes here and there's going to be trim here or there's not going to be trim here. Or, and we walk through them, and that's usually gives that crew the confidence that we know what we're doing and that the job's going to go well for them because we were prepared.
Yes. Yeah. You're prepared. That speaks volumes to the homeowner, that you're prepared when you walk in. And you can speak to that as well. Like you can sell on the product, and then you can let, the homeowner know this is, the next step in the process. I'm going to meet my installer out here, go over the takeoff, explain where certain trim and, everything's going, just in case he has some feedback on certain things that, okay, this may not work, but how about we do this? So you're able to speak to it, knowledgeably to the homeowner. And that's a whole part of the sales process. If you have that, you can easily sell James Hardie in whatever market you're in.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So when it comes to takeoffs, what are things that we need to see more of or less of when it comes to takeoffs? I know you see a lot of them, probably a lot of contractors coming to you, or they do it on their own and then you see the headaches. What do we need to see more of or less of when it comes to takeoffs from contractors?
Less of is a good question, but I'm going to kind of answer both. And one is don't rush the process. Don't rush it. Take your time. Really understand and learn the product before you go out and start selling, James Hardie. If you do come across the job and you do sell it, make sure you're utilizing the resources available to you, whether it's Lansing or James Hardie, to make sure, you're hitting all the points that you need to hit to make sure this job goes smoothly for you. We talked about before, if those first 2 jobs go south, that doesn't give you confidence to be able to sell, the next job or the next job after that. So don't rush. I mean, selling James Hardie is a process.
Yeah. And, that's one thing that we do at JHC is we have videos that are really short, 2 to 5 minutes, that cover all the aspects of what they need to look for. We have forms that help them. So that way, you don't have to reinvent the wheel. You can copy what, I'm an elite contractor in the Alliance program with my company, and it gives them that roadmap so they know what to look for and they know how to make the notes, and then they're set up from the beginning. And I think that's really the big key. When I work with my new sales guys, what we do is we go out to that job and we may walk around that one 5 or 6 times, just making sure that we got those details. And then we take at least 20 pictures. So that way, even if we miss something, we can reference those pictures while we're putting that estimate together. I don't do a 1-call close. We set it up as a 2-call close, typically because it takes a little bit of time to put that estimate together. It's not like a roof, where a roof, you may be able to do more just like a price per square. But with Hardie, it's a little more involved. And I think you're 100% right. It's take your time, know a process, have a process. And, that's really what we do at JHC is we help contractors either train themselves or train their salespeople. So that way they know how to take their time and what they're looking for when they're out there. I think that's a huge part of it. So that way, it goes well, they can get a good project, sell the job, and end up with a 5-star review and a happy crew. What advice would you have for contractors looking to sell more Hardie?
I would say utilize, I mentioned it, in the prior question, utilize your resources that's available to you. We are here to help you do those first couple takeoffs, introduce you to the James Hardie team. We just built a install wall or a training wall in our warehouse. Like, we're setting up install dates. Utilize those. Come put the product on yourself. We'll set up a Hardie training. Like, utilize those resources. That way you are confident going into the home to be able to sell the project. But that's the big thing is just, the resources are out there, even videos online of, contractors like yourself or, maybe some other contractors on how to install the product or how to sell the product. Like, you can never stop learning when it comes to James Hardie or any product for that matter. But you can never start learning. Just utilize those resources. That way you are comfortable selling the product, because if you're comfortable and you're confident, you're going to be successful when it comes to this product.
Yeah, and I have to second that. We do this consulting to help contractors grow their Hardie business, but I also have my own construction company, and I have to second what you said there. Hardie was very helpful when I got started. I think that's the first thing I tell any contractor that we work with is you need to get in touch with Hardie. You need to make sure that you're trying to get in the Alliance program and they can help you with some of those things. And the other side of it is, I can attest, I've been buying from Lansing Building Supply for 10 years now. And Lansing, like you said at the very beginning, why you work there, Lansing is an amazing company. They're very unique in our construction space, because I think a lot of suppliers could just be looked at as order takers. And I think Lansing sets themselves apart where they have the service, they help, like having the wall there where you can bring the install Hardie rep in. They'll help you show how to get it installed, can help you train with your crews. I can't agree anymore. Use those resources. There's also, companies like myself, where you can invest in, having systems and processes taken care of for you and help you build those as well. So I think that's great.
And you hit the head on the nail. Like, Lansing is never going to be transactional. Like, that's not who we are. Like, we're here, to make a positive impact in people's lives, to build those relationships, because we want you to be successful, in your business. And we have the tools, to help you with that, whether it's learning a new product like James Hardie, our marketing services, our Lansing Now platform, whatever it may be. We have the resources that's available to you, and we're never, going to be order takers. We're never going to be transactional. We're here to help you grow your business to where you want it to be.
Yeah, absolutely. I can't agree anymore. And I think that, like I said, Lansing's done an amazing job helping me in my business over the years. And so I appreciate that. What's your message to the audience today? Is there anything else you'd like to promote today as well?
When it comes to James Hardie, I want to speak to my team a little bit. We have a lot of experience in the industry, from, our operations manager, Dale. He's been with Lansing since we opened in 2006, 17 years. I think it's 17 years of experience. Pat, our inside team, Pat and Brian. Pat's been here 12 years. Brian's been here, I think coming up on 3 years. Our guys in the warehouse, they know how to handle the product. That's one thing when it comes to Hardie is you got to know how to handle it. And our guys are really good. They understand. I mean, we have a warehouse stock full of James Hardie, and they understand what it takes to help the contractor be successful. And that also includes getting the material on site, the way it should be. We're never going to put the trim down on the bottom, siding up top, and that calls for a disaster. And I'm sure you've, went through that, in the past. And we learn from experience as well. Like, we'll take into account, like, okay, this is what a contractor sees, like when material is being dropped on the job site. He would like it a little different. So we'll take that into account and learn. That way it's easier for you once the contractor gets to the job site, once the installer gets to the job site, and they're not moving trim boards off a skid to another skid or siding to a skid to another skid to get to the trim boards. We have a process in place, in the warehouse to how to build, Hardie loads pretty much. And our team does a fantastic job at it. And it makes my job easier to be able to sell James Hardie and be able to get contractors running when it comes to the product, because we have the processes in place on our end to help you be successful, when it comes to James Hardie.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I think, we constantly as a contractor have other suppliers coming to us and saying, oh, well, let us in, we'll give you a better price. And I can tell you, I'm a nice guy. I try to throw a bone to people here and there and help them out a little bit. Colby Beckman one time told me, he said, Cory, that other company's price for Hardie itself, the siding may be slightly less expensive, but if you quote us versus another supplier, we're usually going to be within $100, maybe $200 on an entire project. But the thing is to me, it's worth a little bit more sometimes. And I think Lansing's prices are very competitive. I think sometimes it's worth a little bit more when you're getting better service, when you're getting better quality. I've had that exact example where we used somebody else one time and they put the trim on bottom and they put the siding on top. And I remember the crew being so upset about that situation. And I think one of the things that Lansing does that's really amazing is Lansing does a level of training that I've not seen out of any other supplier out there. And I think that they've really specialized, in our market. This may be the same there in Columbus, but our Lansing doesn't sell shingles. And as much as I would like for them to sell shingles, they specialize in what they're good at. And that ends up paying off for me down the road. And I do think that Lansing does a great job of maintaining good talent. A lot of the people that I see at our branch, I know a lot of the people at our branch, they've been there for a long time because it's a great company and you're doing a good job. And so I really have to agree with you. I'm not in your market, but I think that it's very transparent. Lansing as a company does a great job with that.
Yeah. And, like you said, hiring and retaining good talent is part of our, flywheel. Having the right guys in play and the training, provide, excellent training to our new associates. That way, they're comfortable with, making sure, loads are built the way they're supposed to be. Because, when we talk about the sales process, you can utilize that in home, talk about your distributor, how they package the material, how they deliver it to the job site. We do a really good job here, and I'm sure Indy does as well, is making sure we have the right instructions on where to put the material, when we deliver it to the job site. our driver introducing himself to the homeowner, just letting them know, hey, I'm with Lansing. I'm dropping your material off. I just wanted to let you know, and kind of build that relationship as well. But, it's all part of the sales process that the contractor can utilize, and be confident in their distributor to make sure the job goes smoothly for them.
Yeah, absolutely. I got a couple last questions for you here. If you were going to summarize maybe like 3 to 5 main things that a contractor needs to be successful in their Hardie business, what would those things be?
3 to 5 things. Patience would be a big one.
That's a good one. I've never heard that one. That's good.
Don't rush it. The training process, from product knowledge to install, just have, patience with it. You gotta be fully bought in when it comes to this product. And then I mentioned it before, it's not a product you can kind of tiptoe around. You got to be fully bought in to the product. It's understanding the process that goes along with patience as well. Just have patience within those first few weeks, whatever it may be, of, your product training. Because like I said before, we're here to help. Hardie's here to help you be successful. They want you to be successful. We want you to be successful when it comes to this product. And, just having the patience to really understand the whole process of, what it takes to sell James Hardie successfully. That ultimately is gonna, help you be, successful in it, and help you sell more jobs along the way.
Yeah, absolutely. What are some common red flags that you see when a contractor wants to grow their Hardie business? And that may kind of coincide with what you just said about patience. But what are some red flags that, a lot of contractors I want to do more Hardie, but then they don't, maybe there's some red flags of what they're not aware of.
I don't know if there are so much red flags. I would say they just kind of, that's a tough question. I would say it coincides with what I just said. They rush it. They rush the takeoff. They just want to sell the job, get it built, be done with it. And then next thing you know, you had, 3 fires you had to put out during that job. But, rushing. Okay, I got this, Hardie lead. I need to be able to sell it. Here's my material list. Can you get this job to me next week? Okay. Yeah, we can do that. Yes. And then, next thing you know, we got 3 square, 4 square we're shipping out the following week because you ran short on material. Just kind of rushing in. I spoke to it quite a bit. Just, rushing the process instead of, taking your time with it, really understanding, what it takes to, have a job go smoothly. But I would say that just, rushing into it, without the, proper training, proper install training, being tied with the correct install crew, a crew that, may say they've done Hardie in the past, or we can do Hardie, but they've done, 2 to 3 jobs here and there, to where you got another crew that we could introduce you to that all they do is install Hardie. They don't touch vinyl or another hardboard product. They install Hardie. That's what they do. And we can introduce you to them, but kind of just rushing through that process. And next thing you know, you got a bunch of headaches on your hand.
Yeah, about 5-6 years ago, I was at the Hardie Summit and we do these contractor groups, and one of the big questions back then was where do you find good Hardie crews? And first place I said, I was like, well, go back to the supplier, go back to Lansing, and they can help you, introduce you to these good crews. And I think another part of what you kind of touched on also plays a factor you mentioned earlier is not rushing into it too fast. I think one of the big things is understanding that product offering. Things got a little bit complicated with Hardie a few years ago when they changed what the statement collection was and they brought in the dream collection. And so it's like understanding, it's like you said, it's like sometimes you can get it to them in a week, but they need to know not to promise, hey, I can do it in a week, but then it's dream trim and they just don't quite realize that, maybe based off the size or whatever. And that can cause some headaches when you tell a homeowner, I'll be there in a week. And then it's like, oh, well, it turned out that it wasn't all in stock and now it'll be 8 weeks before I can have the materials.
Yeah. And that goes along. I mean, understanding the product offering, because someone says they want smooth Hardie and a cobblestone color, and next thing you know, it's a premium price point and you're waiting 6 to 8 weeks to get that material. The trim is a great example of that, because there's only 5 colors including Arctic White in that trim offering, and maybe you don't have the knowledge of that, and next thing you know, yes, we can get the siding there, but the trim's going to be 6 to 8 weeks because that's technically considered a dream color, and you didn't price it correctly as well. So that's a lot of stuff that can be eliminated from the right training, the right get in touch with the right resources. Like we have the brochures, we can set you up with the trainings with the Hardie reps to make sure you understand the availability when it comes to the product.
Yeah, and that's definitely something we're going to cover in the training when I come out there is breaking it down. And the next step after you break it down is understanding, having a good estimate template in your CRM system that lets you know, because I think one of the complicated parts about Hardie trim is that even though it may be in the statement collection, it may not be stocked readily available depending on the size and the color in the market. And it may still take some time to bring that in. And like you said, knowing that ahead of time will pay dividends down the road, because like you said, it may be the same price, it may not, but if it is ends up being a dream color because it's a different width or whatnot, you need a wider piece of trim. Accounting for that when you're quoting the job is what's going to maintain those healthy margins. I was talking to a contractor in South Dakota the other day, and he said, I'm an elite contractor, but we're having problems we quote everything as a price per square. And we don't win the small jobs because we're too high. And then we win these more complicated jobs and then our margins aren't great. And that's one thing we'll talk about in the training when we come out there is how do you account for that in your systems and processes so that way you can maintain a healthy margin and have the knowledge when you're going through the sales process with the homeowner. Because we see it in our market where contractors will overpromise, and then we're able to go in there with our knowledge and say, well, that's just not the facts. And if that competitor doesn't know that, then how much experience do they have? And so we'll definitely cover that in the training, because I think that's a huge piece. I think the trim is maybe the biggest piece when it comes to takeoffs and trying to get it right for sure. So
yeah, and it's understanding what your distributor has in stock as well. Our marketing team does a great job, and we create flyers, and it details everything that we carry in our warehouse. But really understanding what your distributor has in stock, that way you can let the homeowner know, like this is what they have on ground, and we can have it readily available to you. And like you said, when it comes to the trim, collection and statement, it's sometimes gets a little tricky for contractors, but really understanding those, aspects of it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, Will, I really appreciate you taking the time to meet with me today, talking about Hardie Takeoffs. I'm looking forward to coming out there March 14th, 11 to 1 p.m. We're going to be at the Columbus, Ohio area Lansing Branch in New Albany, and we're going to dig a lot deeper into, having the right processes for the takeoffs for James Hardie projects. And the whole goal is to help contractors win more jobs, maintain healthy margins, and grow their Hardie business. We'll also be available to talk about sales process and production processes that help contractors do the same thing. So I'm looking forward to coming out there, talking more Hardie, and hopefully we can help some contractors, gain some more Hardie jobs and grow their business.
Yeah, no, thank you for having me on. I want to, give a shout out and thanks to Matt Reichel and Indy for introducing us. I think what you're doing is, great. I think our training here in Columbus is going to be, awesome. It's going to give, contractors the right tools and resources to be better when it comes to selling Hardie and be more knowledgeable. But yeah, thank you for having me on. Thanks to Matt for, connecting us. And, I look forward to what we can, do in the future.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Well, thanks for meeting Will, and we'll see you March 14th, 11 to 1, and we'll have some fun then.
All right. Sounds good. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Will.